religions do have a sense of universal values, a moral truth based on the dignity of all human beings. Gandhi called the world's religions beautiful flowers from the same garden. Every religion embraces a form of the golden rule and the supreme importance of charity, compassion, and human improvement. When Jesus was asked, "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" he replied, "First, you shall love the Lord your God, and second, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. In everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets." The Talmud said that in Roman times, a non-believer approached the famous Rabbi Hillel and challenged him to teach the meaning of the Torah by standing on one leg. Holding up one foot, Hillel replied, "What is hateful to yourself, you do not do to another. That is the whole of the Torah. The rest is commentary." The Prophet Muhammad said, "Not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself." Buddhist scriptures teach us to treat not others in ways that you yourself would find harmful. Native American spirituality proclaims that all things are our relatives. What we do to everything, we do to ourselves. Anyone who adheres to these basic principles must acknowledge the moral challenges we all face today are enormous, but they are shared. And they are shared in a fundamental value in almost every single religion and almost every single philosophy or standard and way of life. People today, as all of you know, billions of human beings live in poverty. And there isn't one holy scripture of any person's faith that doesn't call us to obligation with respect to poverty. People are struggling to feed their families from Port-au-Prince to Dhaka. AIDS orphans are raising their younger siblings in shantytowns in South Africa. A planet is being ravaged and unfortunately radically altered by the pollution that we create. And people in every corner of the world are living violent lives and desperate ones. We should think of our shared struggle in terms of these unmet challenges. 65% of the Middle East population is under age 25. There's a 15% unemployment rate, half of which is comprised of youths between the age of 15 and 24. And just to maintain this unacceptable status quo as the population grows, the region needs 80 million new jobs in the next 15 years. Extremism and violent sectarianism often represent a human attempt to capitalize on the failures of governance and civil society. This applies to failed states like Afghanistan, where in the 1990s the Taliban arose to fill a chaotic vacuum, but also in many other places where the state and the society and the religions don't do enough to remedy the unfairness or the lack of education or social alienation. I don't just mean a place like Sadr City in Baghdad. It is true in Cairo. It is true in the desolate immigration suburbs around Paris, France. Demagogues misappropriate and distort religion to drive a wedge and gain a foothold. And failed states, failed civil societies, and frankly, corruption in governance empower them to do so. So the dialogue here must include ways in which we join to express a common moral responsibility to avoid that exploitation and to find instead the governance that empowers people and liberates religions to live their true meaning. Let me make something clear as I say that. In talking about our shared challenges, I don't seek to minimize the real differences between our religions. The specificity, the immediacy, the richness of each of our sacred texts, the greatness of our preferred theologians and thinkers, all are cheapened when dialogue tries to turn religion into some sort of undifferentiated, feel-good mush. We don't need to succumb to that in order to find the kind of tolerance that will permit us to coexist. Nor can we hope to remove any influence of faith from our public life. And I believe we shouldn't even try, because if we are not shaped by our faith, then we don't have faith. In fact, in all of this, it's important for us to remember what faith is. Faith, to the persons who have it, is truth. But in the end, faith is really a belief beyond the evidence, or as some people say, a belief in the evidence yet to come. Who pronounces the truth? As all of us know, in the end, God does, not us. What separates our faiths are different beliefs about what is not shown, but simply believed. Belief by Christians that Jesus is the Son of God. Belief by Catholics in the Holy Trinity. A notion which Muslims and even some other Christians believe compromises the oneness of a monotheistic God. Belief by Muslims that Jesus was a great prophet, but who didn't complete his mission, requiring Muhammad and the teachings of the Quran. Belief by Muslims and Jews that Jesus was an important teacher, but that God could never become human. Each religion believes its basic tenets are supported by fact. That Muhammad received the Quran, that crucifixion was observed and recorded, that Moses led the Jews to the Promised Land. While each rests on basic facts, it still takes a leap of faith to weave those facts together into a religious narrative. Whatever our differences among the monotheistic religions, what we really ought to be doing is celebrating that we all believe in one God. All religions should be celebrating our agreement to put one thing above all else: worship. And at the same time, we must also welcome the secular among us to join in celebrating our common awe at the majestic fact of the universe we inhabit, however they may deem it to have originated. We don't need to agree on everything in order to get along. Instead, we need to ask ourselves tough questions about coexistence. I see at least two types of conversation to cultivate between the great Abrahamic faiths and all faiths. The first I would call traditional interfaith dialogue. The second is a search for how we might live together in some sort of peace and harmony that respects our differences while fashioning a common effort for human dignity. We can't wait for the theological conversation to finish before we move to pressing political and social questions in the second dialogue. Somewhere and somehow we have to find a way to agree that faith may be worth dying for, but it cannot be worth killing for. We have to strive for a global ethic that allows each of our religious faiths to express themselves fully, but also allows us to unite around common ethical ground. My own faith, Roman Catholicism, has advanced a line of thinking that I believe can help to structure this second conversation. For many years, Catholics have spoken of this common good, not just for Catholics, not just for a single people, and not just for this and that nation, but for all of the earth's people, an international common good. Vatican II, a crucial document in recent Catholic history, labels the common good, and I quote, "the sum of those conditions of social life which allow social groups and their individual members relatively thorough and ready access to their own fulfillment." These conditions include the right to fulfillment of material needs, a guarantee of fundamental freedoms, and the protection of relationships that are essential to participation in the life of society. These rights are bestowed on human beings by God, and they are grounded in the nature and dignity of human persons. They are not created by society. Indeed, society has a duty to secure and to protect them. Can our great faith tradition